We're all fans of Game of Thrones. Even that guy at your office who can't stop telling people he doesn't own a TV loves Game of Thrones. What's not to love? It is everything us fantasy nerds have been preaching about forever. Dragons, romance, zombies, betrayal, dragons, war, and don't forget about the dragons. Hell, there's even some naughty stuff for the Cinemax crowd. So, with that being said, it's time we put one of the most hotly debated water cooler discussions to rest. So here are the 10 best Game of Thrones characters on the TV show. And while all of these characters are fighting over the Iron Throne, if you hit that subscribe button, we are more than happy to bend the knee and be your bannermen. Yeah. Love him or hate the guy, he makes the list. How could he not? Half the show revolves around the guy by the 7th season. If we had to break down why Jon is such a great character, it would come down to these things. 1, he is as honorable as Ned Stark without losing his head over maintaining that honor. Too soon? Jon has shown he is an honorable man in a disgraceful world by treating all people he encounters with respect, whether they are a noble or a wildling. Although that second part took a little while and they had to find common ground. Secondly, he is the very definition of the everyman coming to prominence in the Seven Kingdoms. He is a bastard, well, you know, R plus L and whatnot, but as of the time of this video, he is still a bastard. Who was Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, repelled the Wildling army, before they were allies of course, went to Hardhome, forged an alliance, got killed by his own dudes, and came back to life, then defeated Ramsay Bolton and became king in the North. The guy is a frickin' hero. Plus, when the dust settles, there is a really good chance he is the prince that was promised and is the reincarnation of Azor Ahai. If you end up being the reincarnation of a mythical hero, you get to make the list. You just do, despite the fact that he knows nothing. R.I.P. Ygritte. Speaking of another everyman character, how great is Sir Davos? Yeah, the Onion Knight was a flunky for Stannis Baratheon for a while, but what was he supposed to do? He believed in the guy before he got all crazy about the Lord of Light, and to be fair, Melisandre is pretty convincing. But what makes Sir Davos so great is that he always speaks his mind, to whomever he is with. No matter what they think of him or what it could potentially cost him, think about this. Westeros is kind of like a medieval yes-man factory with different groups of commoners constantly towing the line that their lords and ladies put out for them. Sir Davos has pretty much been like, nah, I'm going to tell you how I feel. And since the very first time we see him all the way back in Season 2 arguing with Stannis and eventually saving the day at the Battle of Blackwater, a battle in which he lost his only son for those keeping score and want to keep the theory that Davos is Azor Ahai alive. He acted as a check and balance system against Melisandre for the majority of his employ by Stannis, and he has survived multiple major battles while only having 5 fingers. Fast forward to now in Season 7, and he is the right-hand man of Jon Snow, and he's on his way to meet the Mother of Dragons and potentially work out the biggest truce of all time. And you can bet your gold that he is going to be letting everyone know what he thinks about what is moral and what is right. And besides all of that, just his time with Shireen gets him on this list. Forget about it. Davos is easily number 9. Now, some of the best characters on here we aren't going to love because of their achievements or their valor. Some are here because we hate their guts and that the things they are willing to do to stay in power are so vile we are compelled to watch their schemes. Oh, hello, Cersei. The Queen Mother is the be-all, end-all of the character you love to hate. From the start of the series, there has been no character who has been so evil by a self-centered ideology, and last season pretty much cemented her as a badass who will do anything to remain in power, up to and including destroying religious and historical landmarks via green flame bombs. But there is a duality in Cersei. She has known her whole life that she was going to be queen, but she would lose everything she cared about getting there. Knowing a prophecy like that would eat you up inside. Now imagine letting that fester for 20 plus years and you've got someone who will lash out to protect the things she loves. But even then, she lost it all, and all that is left is the anger. So basically, if you mess with Cersei, you better be ready for your whole world to come tumbling down, because she will move heaven and earth to destroy you, and that, my friends, makes her one of the best on the show. While newer to the show, there hasn't been a character who has grabbed our attention and kept it hostage quite like Euron Greyjoy. The Iron Islanders have been talked about as these awesome pirates for the entire run of GOT, and not once have we seen them get all piratey. Until Euron, that is. He sailed in on his badass galleon and plundered our hearts, as well as paying the iron price to become the new king of the Iron Islands. Has there been a more charismatic villain in Game of Thrones? We don't recall anyone being as awesome while being that vile. He has a sort of animal magnetism in his ruthless aggression, and his seafaring bravado is a nice change of pace from the stuffed shirts in King's Landing. From his veiled jabs at Jaime about how many hands he has to ambushing his niece and killing the Sand Snakes, Euron is pretty great. On top of all that, he is probably the most stylish swashbuckler in the whole Seven Kingdoms. Euron brings a bravado to his evil that makes him very compelling, and as an ally of Cersei, it doesn't seem like they are as outnumbered as they once were. Besides, who wouldn't want that mutton chop mustache combo he has? No one. That's who. Now, this may ruffle some feathers, as the odds-on consensus for many fans is that Tyrion of House Lannister is the GOAT of GOT. But while he drinks and knows things, he is far better as a peripheral character than a central one. His time leading his ragtag band of misfit hill people in Season 1, his time with Shae, being forced to marry Sansa, all neat little diversions. Even when he was center stage as the Hand of the King, he didn't make waves, which may actually be more noteworthy in hindsight. But from the time he landed across the Narrow Sea, there is something missing from Tyrion. Come on, admit it, Tyrion has been on the downswing for a while now. He's basically an add-on to Dany's story, and until he goes face-to-face with his siblings, he will continue to middle around and not do a ton. But based on past merits, Tyrion is an easy 6th place on this list. Brienne is awesome. The end. Nothing else. Alright, fine. Brienne is everything that knights are supposed to be, honor-bound and excellent with a sword. She does all of this in spite of her 2 nobles being killed, by nefarious means of course, but that's what is compelling about Brienne. She has every right to falter and quit, but she never does. She is determined to a fault, and it will probably be the death of her eventually. Her love of Jaime is endearing if unreciprocated. The training of Podrick has given her character a much-needed comedic boost, as well as a maternal/mentor angle, which we swear, if you guys kill off Pod, we're gonna lose it. And she fought a freaking bear. Now, it was more like she was trying to stay away from a bear, but you go and fight a full-grown bear with nothing but a dress and a wooden sword. On top of all that, she just crushed the Hound in the most knockdown, drag-out brawl you have ever seen on Game of Thrones. It was like the fight in John Carpenter's movie They Live, but instead of wrestlers and amazing character actors, it was a burn victim and a lady knight. Just a pure classic. Which should come as no surprise as to who our 4th is. Sandor Clegane is a cantankerous jerk. He is just such a fantastic character. You could just have a whole show about his travels, but even as just a part of the show, he pretty much steals every scene he is in. With his crass and brutal nature, he cuts quite a figure. His time mentoring Arya while she was his hostage was as close to a buddy movie as the series is ever going to get, and his run-in with Bronn before the Battle of Blackwater still has us fiending for a fight between the two of them. The thing about the Hound that is truly compelling is how sad a character he is. Going all the way back to his youth and hearing him tell the tale of how he got the infamous burns on his face is heartbreaking. Then to see the angst in his face when he tells Sansa the worst part is that their father protected his brother instead of helping him is just so sad. As we said before, he has a run-in with Brienne of Tarth, and many thought him to be dead. But the Hound is one tough mother, and after the defeat he hung up his sword and settled down to work out his demons by helping build a new sept for an encampment. But nothing good can last for the Hound, and he was drugged back into the world of killing. Now, as a tentative agent of the Lord of Light, there has to be a showdown between him and his brother in sight. Seriously. Give us Clegane Bowl. You guys teased it last season, then pulled the rug out from underneath us. Not cool, HBO. Not cool. Sir Bronn is the man. We first meet him in Season 1 as what amounts to little more than a background extra as a common sellsword. What makes him rank so high is how great an opportunist he is. From the moment he stepped up to be Tyrion's champion at the Eyrie, he has climbed the rungs of the nobility ladder. He went from sellsword to knight, to nobleman, to leader of the city guard, to an even higher noble house. He would say that he did this by killing the right people. We would say he did all of this with his cunning, which is what's great about him. He has a change of pace in how he uses his cunning. Every single intelligent character wants some form of power. Not Bronn. He just wants to be rich and have sex. He wants no part of the great game unless it makes him richer and doesn't put him in too much danger. Last we saw him, he was in the employ of Jaime, failing miserably to sneak into Dorne. But like always, Bronn went through some hardships but came out richer on the other side. And remember, what is the point in fighting with honor if it means you're going to lose? The Red Viper of Dorne. Such an interesting character and only with us for a short time. He is a complete lunatic consumed by revenge for his sister and her children. He is of singular mind and owned the screen every moment he was on it. The scene where he agrees to be Tyrion's champion in the trial by combat is so fantastic. It is only overshadowed by the glory that is everyone thinking the Mountain was going to wipe the floor with him in combat. only to show everyone that he was a far superior combatant and that in some fights, speed and tactics will beat power. Now you're probably wondering, yeah, that's all well and good, but that shouldn't put him at number 2, and you're right. What puts him at number 2 on this list is how Shakespearean his story arc is. He spends his entire time on the show investigating how the Lannisters and Gregor Clegane murdered his sister, gets the fight with the Mountain, crushes him in single combat, but he cannot just kill the Mountain and have his victory. No, he needs to hear the Mountain confess as he dies, which is his undoing. The Mountain uses this hubris to his advantage and punches Oberyn's teeth out, then crushes his head like a grape. The shift from glory to sadness with Oberyn is truly a sight to behold. No one has had a better series arc than Arya. Maybe Rick from Rick and Morty, but that involves Szechuan sauce and that doesn't count. But I digress. Arya goes from what could only be called an annoying little sister character to unrelenting death machine in 5 years. Her journey is incredible. The moment she sees her dad beheaded, her whole persona changes. Then she goes through some serious stuff on the way to her time in Essos. She is enslaved at Harrenhal. She has a run-in with the Brotherhood without banners. Goes on a cross-continent buddy trip with the Hound. Escapes to a port city and goes to Essos. Trains with the Faceless and becomes an assassin. Abuses her training, goes blind, kills the waif, ascends to Faceless, and throws it away because she is not no one. She is Arya freaking Stark. We thought her season 6 finale of killing Walder Frey after reverse Scott Tenormanning him made her a seriously amazing character. But then she opened up season 7 by killing all of the Freys by poison and scratching a few more names off of her list of people who have wronged the Starks. Why is she the greatest? Because she's going to get all the names on her list crossed off before this is all said and done. And that's the list. Who did we miss? Who do you think is the GOAT of GOT? Let us know in the comments and make sure to like this video.